You ever had one of these Dremel bits and you couldn't figure out how to force the sanding pad to fit on that rubber piece that fits in the Dremel? Well, here's a simple tip of the day. Take a little heavy duty silicone, spray it on, and it slips right on. To get the last little bit, you may have to find something so that the screw can fit down, but it really works like a dream. I have developed a new technique for making multiple copies of the same piece. And in simple terms, that is to make one piece on a large block, cut it on a jigsaw, and then slice biscuits off of it. You've seen me do this for a few other things in the build, but for a complex piece like this is the ideal way to really make it once and then have identical copies. At first I had gone back to my previous video which had made up these beam arms, but in hindsight I have had the ability to think about how I'm going to make this, and had I realized that there would be 4 of these, I would have used this method when I was doing the lower deck to make the beam arms for the upper deck at the same time. So what we've got is a piece of juniper, which is quite thick, and we're going to stick one template on it. The beam arm is 7 inches thick. So we'll stick this, cut it out on the bandsaw, and then put it on the table saw and make one piece, which will then turn into this can make maybe 6 pieces. I know I've said this before, but you can only make marks on these small parts using a utility knife. A pencil is much too sharp. So take that utility knife out to make all of these markings on the piece. By now you should be getting accustomed to me. So I immediately started checking everything for lining up. So here we would be putting in the collar, and lo and behold, here's where the join is on the plan. Why? Because as I told you when I started off, I'm not following the plan, I'm following the form, because this isn't written in stone. And so I am about 4 or 5 inches further to the center. And so these are in the wrong place, as is this, and the same thing on the other side. So what to do? I could fill this in and we wouldn't see it, or I can remake the piece. Those of you who are getting to know me, here are the 4 new pieces with no slots cut in them. The other little issue, just to try and keep things in perspective, is I just followed the form on the template, on the paper template. and cut these slots out. And then I realized I was really quite stupid. These are all exactly the same size, or should be. So this from here to here should be 44 inches. And each one of these is 11 inches, so they'll be exactly the same. Again, hindsight is the best teacher. So that's what I'm going to do with these ones. Now they're done correctly, we're going to remake the beam now. I have to interject here. I've actually come back in the build because I found that this is a lot more complex than I first thought it was going to be. Beams 10, 11 and 12 all interconnect with one another, and if you're going to cut the pieces as I am off the model, then you have to align all these pieces up and square everything off so that everything fits correctly when we put it on the model. I thought I'd done such a great job with the beams, making another second batch, until I started looking at them and saw that on the right side they were already perfect. On the left side they had started to flatten out, which is probably a result of the way I sanded them. So I have made up a new batch and redone this, and I was about to cut the bottom part of the beam, and then suddenly realized the best way to sand this so that it's absolutely flat on the spiral sander is you need the body of the piece to lay flat so that you get a nice 90-degree sanding surface. So that's what we're going to do now. We've got a much tighter join. You're not going to see any real glue there at all. And now we'll fit it on the model. Having got the front of the beam sorted out and the beam arm sorted out, we now have to work out the stern of this beam, which again is quite complicated. Now we're going to make the main mast partner, and it's slightly different than the one we built for the lower deck. And what we have to make sure is that everything lines up perfectly. So first let's cut it out, and we're going to do this as a solid piece and then scribe lines onto it to show the various parts that make up the main mast partner. Remember, we made the beam arms quite a bit bigger. They are nearly 10 inches, I think 9.5 is what these ended up at. And we have to take the ends down to 7 inches and put a curve in to follow the curve of the beam. And the same thing on the other side. You will see that they are 2 inches sticking out, so we need to take that down flush with the bottom of the beam. We'll shape the rest of this on the model using that sander. Now we have to cut the carlins to allow access to the main topsail sheet bit, and you can see the 2 cuts. I found a very fast way of cutting the recesses for the ledges, and that is simply to go to the book, take the measurements straight off the book, and then go on the table saw and cut the grooves. Now I can cut the main mast part now. Here's the test that it's all lined up. So with lots of rake we can put in that mast, and just so you see that the water pumps line up, again it's perfectly lined up. Really rewarding. Means I got all the measurements right.